and a skyrock. I set this thing up again how I did it before. I haven't streamed in years, or months, so it might as well be a year. Alright, how did I have this set up last time? It sounded good, at least at the beginning. Okay, so this is an uncomfortable setup. Why did I don't want my microphone where I'm pressing the shift key, but I also need to talk into it. And I don't have a hanging microphone, so doing what I can here. Trying my best. Hopefully that doesn't sound absolutely awful. The shift key, I think it does. I'm just going to have to say fuck it and just the audio can how it comes out so I can talk and not think about setting up the microphone. What if I put the microphone right here in the middle? Oh wow, look at that. Look at that. Does that sound okay? Shouldn't I have tested this before? Yeah. Did I? No. Right here? Yes. Am I gonna be mad if this video comes out sounding like shit? I am. But I'm here. Hold on. Okay. First thing that incited me to come out here, well, first off, I said I would take a day after the last video to rest my voice because I kind of drained it a lot, trying to talk low like this and be loud and direct and enunciated or whatever. So after like 2 hours of that, I break my voice, and then I give myself another break day, and then I give myself another day to not speak. And then I come back here, and then I'm back to yelling. So the thing that really got me fired up recently is seeing a lot of posts. There's supposed to be some big protests on today. And you might say, Kelvar, why aren't you at those protests? Now, that's a fair point. I'll get to that. As people were posting reminders about the protests, they kept on saying, remember, be peaceful. Don't give them a reason to invoke the Insurrection Act, which, by the way, sounds like something that you'd hear in a sci-fi dystopian fiction novel, but I guess that's where we are. And so, hearing this come from people that claim to be anti-Trump, claim to be trying to resist, it gets my blood boiling every time, because first off, what will they do with the insurrection? Whatever they might do with the Insurrection Act, they can do it on their own. Trump can do it on his own. The idea that if we stay peaceful, nothing bad will happen, or it will be less bad, it's just yet another version of this good cop, bad cop mentality. And it makes me livid to hear it from Americans that claim to be trying to resist this administration. First off, Trump has complete immunity. Doge already hijacked the government. Nothing worse is going to happen if Trump invokes the Insurrection Act. Also, they recently just the Pentagon gave Trump his recommendation to not invoke the Insurrection Act. But Trump can still do it. And Trump probably will still do it. If you think that being peaceful on these protests will prevent the Insurrection Act, look, people already went out and destroyed some Tesla plants. And you know what? People were some leftist Democrats, probably the centrist ones, were saying, no, don't do that, you'll get the Insurrection Act invoked. And did it happen? No. But you know what did happen? Those Tesla plants are gone. Those Tesla stores are destroyed. The Republican headquarters vandalized, rightfully so, in New York. And you know what, America? Keep doing shit like that. If America as a whole is going to have these people yelling in the background, no, don't be violent, don't give them a reason to fight back, don't give the government they're already taking citizens, or not, yeah, they are taking citizens, and legal residents, and illegal people, and people on visas, they're taking them off the streets, plainclothes ICE agents. Now, I'd love to see a video of one of these agents getting shot. I mean, we gotta go watch people die and see if there's any ICE agents, because that's how I found out about Luigi Mangione. Or actually, no, it wasn't Luigi, free Luigi. That's how I found out about Brian Thompson's death. I'm pretty sure that's how I found out. Oh, look, that's it. Man shot 3 times in the back of New York. I had no idea how much that video would shape probably the rest of my life. Like, at this point, that was before the Trump administration, so maybe I would have gone this way anyways when ICE started grabbing citizens and innocent lawful permanent residents and people here legally and illegally off the street. There have always been processes to handle illegal immigrants. It's not to grab them off the street and send them to the El Salvador death camp. Speaking of, there was a video uploaded which shows a sky view of the El Salvador prison. Normally I'd be like, oh, you can't just trust anything you see on the internet. But if you go on Google Maps and you go to that prison, and I'll do it right now. Maybe Google Maps has blurred it out now. Google Maps and where's that El Salvador prison? I'll do it right now, and we'll CSAT Terrorism Confinement Center. We'll go to Google Maps. I hate Google, but I'm using Google Maps. We're gonna go to the Centro de Confinamiento del Terrorismo. I guess that's my Spanish knowledge coming in. I'm gonna go get a view on this. Here, I'll also add capture this display. Oh, it isn't capturing the display. Okay, that's weird. Why isn't it doing that? This has never happened to you before. What the hell? Oh. It used the wrong type of duplication. I'm now going to transform edit and crop out the bottom stuff and some of the top stuff. Oh, you know, I don't fucking care. Look at my desktop, I don't fucking care. We're gonna go take a trip to El Salvador right now. Whenever this fucking page loads. Layers. Here we go. We're at the Centro CSAT. Call it that. And if we zoom in here, wow, that sure looks weird. What do you think that is? Is it water? Is it red, rusty water? I don't know. It looks to me like a pile of human corpses and blood. Now, you might argue that that's not true, and that isn't what this is. But if the government's whining about not even letting Congress tour this place, and by the government, I mean the Trump administration, not just the government of El Salvador. You know, at that point, I think you have to turn to some maybe conspiracy theory type analyses. Who are these people? Are they guards executing inmates? Are these people to be executed? I don't know, but this really does look like human bodies and blood. That's what I see. Now, maybe that's just my ink splot test. Maybe that's just the kind of person I am. Maybe I'm the crazy one. And evil and violent and whatever else we're gonna argue. But I see human bodies there. Now, I hit that right. So, okay, I can go back to doing dates and I'm not covering the screen. As if anyone cares about the validity of a 114514 clear. Because let's be honest, people aren't even gonna watch these, they're just gonna... I'm just doing this to talk. I'm doing this to educate. Because the best thing that I can do at this point, the best thing that my life will turn out being, if I can just convince this nation to get past the idea that you can fight fascism peacefully. It never works. The closest thing you had to resistance of the best example of resistance of the German Nazis was one of the death camps, or the labor camps, where the prisoners had an uprising, and some of them escaped They killed the guards and ran away, and some of them were not recaptured. That did infinitely more than any amount of people arguing they don't agree with what's happening. They don't like it. They'll vote against it. Let me tell you something, America. You're not going to have an election if you don't step up and start fighting back like your life depends on it. The way that things are going here, you are not going to have a chance for Democrats to sweep in the 2026 midterms. Because there probably won't be midterms. And if they are, they could easily be rigged to give Democrats no votes or take all this. I mean, realistically, what you'd probably, like a competent fascist government, would just change all the states that voted for anyone who was a Republican for that position in the last 3-4 elections. If you wanted to be an obnoxious, egotistical, like in-your-face fascist government, you would just make them all be Republicans. Or you could just, write an executive order saying that Congress doesn't matter anymore, which Trump already basically did. Now, you could argue that that the Democrats, they could impeach Trump. The Republicans could impeach Trump, but Trump could also execute them, so at this point, is there any rule of law? No, there isn't. So then it comes down to the law of the jungle. As that one Luigi book for each of you put it. The idea that there are 300 million American citizens here, and if 3% of those citizens don't want fascism, that's 1 million. 1 million. No, sorry, that's 100 million, actually, that's how numbers work. 3% of 300 million? Wait, what the fuck am I saying? No, that's not how it works. Why am I stupid? 300 million, 3%. That's 1 million. Right? I'm sorry, I'm a victim of American schools. Okay, so the actual number is... Why am I so stupid? Why am I embarrassing myself like this? Oh my god. .03. 9 million? How is that? Oh yeah, I'm stupid. I am stupid. I was not doing that correctly. Okay, it's 9 million. I was messing up my internal math there. Listen, it's been a couple of months, okay? Just give me a break. I'm so... My brain has just become mush in this last couple of months, okay? It's 9 million. I have the math right here. I should have pulled a calculator to do that before so I didn't say something stupid, but move on. It's 9 million people. The point is the same. 9 million people. 9 million. If that's just with 3% opposed enough that they do something about it. Physically, violently, not marching on the highway. I mean, shutting down the highway I give a partial pass to, because at least then you're interfering with the chain of commerce, or whatever you want to use, whatever fancy language you want to use. In simple terms, you're stopping the economy. You're blocking a major highway. I'll give you a pass for that. But it's going to also have to be destroying places. I'm glad that people are boycotting Target. I'm glad that people are boycotting, if they'll boycott Walmart, great, please do that. Boycott the My Pillow company. I mean, that's already happened, and he's kind of just lost his company. I don't know why that guy even jumped on the Trump train so much. I think it really is just... It's just stupidity. It doesn't even make sense in this context. It's just people like Jeff Bezos wanting to have the feeling of control, and anyone telling them that they can't use slurs, or they can't use words like the R slur, gets in there, it gets them angry and riled up. in like a stupid way, and then they decide to, how dare you tell me that I can't do something, I'm gonna do it more, like a rebellious child, which is about the intelligence point of most of these leading billionaires that are siding behind Trump. I mean, you have Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos. Can we talk about how absurd all this shit is? You have Mark Zuckerberg using this network, having all of their users on Meta platforms automatically follow JD Vance and Donald Trump because JD Vance and Donald Trump want high ratings, I guess. Seriously, that's what these are the leaders that we have in this country. They'll bribe and coerce billionaires into giving them more followers on the internet. Hey, God, people say things about Redditors farming karma or whatever. But this is worse. This is spending real world money and real world influence. I don't know how the billionaires have got on board. Maybe it was just a threat. Like, if you don't do this, I'll shut down Facebook. Or, it really probably is that Mark Zuckerberg's a cunt and always was, and he's just now gotten a chance to say it. He'd pretend to be a liberal only to the degree that it gets him enough support that he can put a fascist in charge. And he really just wants money in the end. It's just about catering to whoever the salesman is. If it's a Democrat, then he'll put up a pro-LGBTQ poster on Pride Month. If it's a Republican, then he'll remove all the transgender messenger themes. Now, frankly, I'm not sure how many people actually use Facebook. At this point, Americans, you should just stop using Facebook, Instagram, whatever else. If you need it for a job, leave that job. This is the point to be rocking the boat in the way the Democrats never will. Because of course they won't. Democrats are, at least the mainstream ones, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they're just as deep in the dark money as Republicans. They just represent a different branch. Now you have people like Bernie Sanders at AOC who are leading these tours. I completely support that. That is leadership. That's what the Democrats were and what the Democrats should be. That's the type of Democratic Party that gets a huge majority in Congress. And it's the type of Democratic Party that had that majority in the off-road of the Great Depression. The kind of Democrats that ran to power in the Great Depression. And I say all this also knowing full well that with the way this government is going, you will not get a fair election. You will not get a fair election in 2026. Unless citizens fight for it. You are not going to have a fair election for as long as the Republican government thinks that citizens are going to stop at peaceful marches. I mean, are you afraid of, what are you afraid of? You're afraid of police brutality? That's already happening. You're afraid of the government disregarding law and using a military on citizens? They're already doing that with ICE. You have nothing more to lose. We have nothing to lose but our chains. There is nothing left to fight for peacefully because it's being taken away from you, and you will continue to be stripped of all your rights as you have been, not just for the last 4 years or 8 years, but since the Patriot Act under George W. Bush. We have no more. I mean, the Department of Defense is just wiretapping all people, counterintelligence agencies, spying on all of us. And by the way, Obama gets in office, Biden gets in office. Do they stop this? No, of course not. This isn't a partisan issue. This is a matter of citizens thinking that their government, maybe a government that's blue, or a government that's red, or a government that's mixed and can't get anything done, thinking that government is going to, can be convinced with peaceful protests, marches, signs of support, witty remarks. It's not going to happen. I'm not speaking right now because I want to convince the government of my opinion. I'm speaking right now because I want to convince people, because there are people in the marijuana community who are American citizens who seem to think that because they're just a person online that they can continue to bury their head in the sand and talk about fan games and college and work, jobs, working computer science degree and getting a computer science job, or maybe getting anything else, any other kind of degree, working at a store. Listen, if there was a riot right now, I would get up. I'm telling you, this is the promise. Destroy my account later, and if I don't uphold this, if there is a riot where I am joining in. I'm getting up out of my seat, walking out the front door, going to that point, and I am joining in. But I'm not going to join in for a peaceful march where you get tear gassed and then everyone walks away and the media maybe covers it, and Trump rages online about, or some Republican talks about the Democrats and the leftists that have nothing new to offer and how Trump is great. I'm not going to go out for that. But if we're talking taking bricks and throwing them through windows, I'm all for it. And by the way, I say this, I know I'm in a blue state, but this is the point. We can't have the appearance of civility. This isn't a states' right issue like with abortion, where I can say, okay, well, realistically, I'm not going to be able to fight for abortion because abortion's legal where I am. We have a very open procedure for abortion. So the fights need to be fought by people in Texas or in Florida. No, at this point, ICE is coming to your state. ICE is in your state. There were ICE attacks in New Jersey. There were people who were abducted in New Jersey. I'm doxing myself there a little bit. Okay, counterintelligence agency, CIA, come to New Jersey. Come to New Jersey and say hi. Come to New Jersey. Maybe I'll actually get a gun if that happens. Maybe I'll get a gun. Maybe I have a gun. Maybe I do. Come in. I will 1-for-1 trade. I will trade with a ICE agent or a CIA agent at this point. I don't see much hope for Americans coming to the right mentality that they need to be in. And at the very least, martyr me. Go make me a martyr. I say as if anyone's going to pay attention to anything I say. No one cares. No one ever cared. No one ever cared about me. I've been in this community for a decade. No one gives a fuck. Half the people in this community don't even know my name. But I'm here. But I'm in your directory. You can't hide that. You can't change that. Amazon can ban me, but guess what? I'm gonna make a new account, come back, and continue 114.514 gameplay. The worst part of all of this is just seeing the inaction of people that I actually thought were progressives and were fellow aware human beings. I'm not talking about... Because we're not talking about joining in a campaign, a political campaign for socialism, but we're talking about stopping a government that is willing and is currently using agents against civilians, that has a complete disregard for even unanimous Supreme Court decisions. And we know how corrupt the Supreme Court is. There isn't even a facade of democracy right now. And yet, I'm hearing from American citizens that I thought would be aware, that I thought were intelligent enough, because they posted things from Twitter and they posted things in Blue Sky, and maybe they even deleted their Twitter. If they don't delete their Twitter, I am going to judge you. But the ones that did delete their Twitter, who are living in this, who maybe are queer, or at least queer allies, who I thought would be aware of what's going on, seeing them go and bury their head in the sand and saying that political talk upsets them. Yeah, this upsets me too. You know what else upsets me is living in this environment. These selfish people, they're selfish people, and they're selfish people in this community, in the I Want to Be the Guy community. They're selfish people on the internet who claim to be leftists, who would vote peacefully for, maybe vote, I don't even know they vote. It's probably, the answer probably is that the people I'm thinking of right now didn't vote in the last election. I bet that's true. I bet they didn't. And maybe they live in a blue state, and so they can argue that, oh, my vote doesn't matter because it's the same either way. But even blue state people, you have to vote. You need to vote in these elections. Because by your own admission, the only reason your vote doesn't matter is because other people in your state voted that way too. So if they also decided that their vote didn't matter because their state was going to go blue, then the state doesn't go blue, and then you look really stupid. But you can't change anything at that point, so whoop-de-doo. You fucked up. There's a quote, and I don't know where it's from. The best time to defend democracy is before you lose it. Or to fight for democracy is before you lose it. Whatever the phrasing is. And at this point, we've lost it. And yeah, so it's not going to be easy. But we lost it because people chose to sit out the last election. Because the people in the swing states decided not to vote. And you know what? I get that Kamala Harris was a shitty candidate. I get that, you know, she wasn't the progressivist that people needed. I think she was a whole lot better than Biden, but I honestly, I think it was Biden that screwed us over. Because Kamala Harris said something, she just didn't say them loud enough. And she tried to, like, she said $15 minimum wage, but I barely heard anyone mention that, even among Kamala supporters. People who said that they wanted Kamala to win, they didn't want Trump to win. At this point, it doesn't really matter because Kamala didn't win. And maybe it really was just that the ballots were rigged. Maybe it was that Kamala should have won, but people had their voting registration revoked en masse in those swing states, and so they all went red. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what this whole problem was caused by. Then it really is that why didn't Biden fight for a fair election? And if it is that people were just fed up with the Democrats and wanted something different, then Biden was a weak candidate. Democrats are continuing to argue that they need to push for the center or whatever, when in reality the centrists are the ones that sit out because they don't care. Maybe now they care, but they're going to care too late. You need to appeal. You need to inspire hope. Just do what Bernie did. Bernie had it right. Bernie knew what he was doing. If Hillary Clinton and the Democrats cared, all those superdelegates, talk about superdelegates, how it rigged the primary, they would have all voted for Bernie if the Democrats cared about protecting this nation. They care about protecting the establishment, you know, the dark money that's funding them. Which is why Hillary Clinton, who also just wanted to be president because she wants to be president, she says about feminism or whatever. Well, her feminism, so to speak, of putting herself in charge, real convenient feminist agenda right there, is just to put me in charge because she's a woman, okay, and that got who did that end up with? Well, that ended up with Trump. He put in his Supreme Court justices, fucked up the court, rigged the court now. They rule against abortion, so now women in half the states can't get abortions. Great feminist agenda right there. Bernie Sanders, who fought equally for everyone, who really just wanted to expose corruption, was an infinitely better choice, and I know we all kind of know that. I don't even have a point I'm trying to make here. I'm still angry about that, and I will continue to be angry about that probably for the rest of my life. At the very least, I would like it if there were other Americans who were equally willing to voice their anger here, who were willing to destroy things even if it wasn't necessarily going to stop the administration immediately. Because those Tesla attacks, regardless of what their intentions might be, that's the kind of energy we need. We need people to be waking up in America and say, this is chaos. Not to say, this is against the Constitution and then, like, go to work. We need people who are aware enough that this is chaos, that they join in, because there's no hope. There's no way of pretending that this is normal. Because what I've seen from people in America is that they will pretend this is normal. They will pretend that everything in their life can move forward, regardless of what's going on in the greater political scene. These are the type of people that don't want to discuss politics in the workplace and in their family because they think it makes for tense situations. Well, this is the alternative, right? You don't want the tense situations at Thanksgiving, and then your uncle goes and votes for Trump. And maybe you would have done it anyways, but you're not even trying. You're not even trying. You're not even using the leverage you have. If you're not pulling what stops you can, if you're not doing what you can right now to propel America forward into a rebellion, then you are the problem. You are the problem. You are a part of a bigger problem, but you're in it. People will say, oh, the Democrats are all corrupt anyways. Push for Democrats like AOC that aren't corrupt. She was just a woman in her government who was being screwed over by dark money Democrat who she ran against. He was an incumbent, by the way, and she was a first-time politician. But she won. She rallied. She got people who agreed with her, and they stood behind AOC. That was in the past where we had a flawed democracy, but still a democracy. Right now, your grassroots movements that you should be starting up should be like throwing bricks through windows. And no, it doesn't matter if it's the RNC window or if it's just a local store. The point isn't to specifically stop the Republican agenda. It's to spur other people to violence. You need a collective mindset of chaos, because otherwise Americans are going to dig out their own little niche of stability. They're going to bury themselves in the things they like to do and try not to think about what's going on outside. So yes, in some ways, if you look at like the Irish, the terrorist attacks that are going on there were people who were not members of the British occupation who were killed in those bombings. Right? There were people who wanted Ireland's independence who were killed in those bombings. But the point of those attacks, the point of a revolution, is to put the collective people, including the government, including the individual employees in the government, in the mindset that they want what you want. Even if only so that they don't have to worry about another one of their children getting blown up on the way to school. That's a sacrifice you need, because the alternative is everyone's children are living under fascism. Do you think life was better under the Nazis than it would have been under the rule of, or not the rule of, but under the presence of a bunch of anti-revolutionary bombers? The question is, do you want lawful chaos where anyone can be abducted by the government, but you can still get to work on time and you can still fill out your application for an apartment, or and pay your rent. You can still buy random products at the store. You can still go get an engagement ring and propose to someone and ask them to enter in a legal marriage. Do you want that kind of chaos where no one is safe, but everyone, and no one is free, no one is safe, but everyone lives under in an organized society? Or do you want the chaotic fight for freedom, which might eventually lead to something better? A world where, yeah, you have to watch out when you're on the bus because there might be a bomb planted there. But 20 years from now, we have a free society, a society that's not just civil in how people interact with each other and whether they greet each other and tip their hats and pretend like they care about you, but also a society where you won't just get abducted and sent to some foreign prison, where you don't get put in jail for 35 years and have your future crushed and have your entire name just tarnished with former felon because you smoked a green plant. People need to fight. You need to fight, and that doesn't mean hold a protest and hold a sign on the edge of the street. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That doesn't get anything done unless the government, whatever government you're under, thinks that there is a physical repercussion to not listening to that majority. The government doesn't have to care about your protests because you have a certain number of people. The point of a protest at its core is to say, we're keeping things civil for now. This is your last chance. We have 1,000 people who are willing to storm your government if you don't appease us. This is how Mexico kept abortion. When Mexico was going to criminalize abortion, thousands of Mexicans gathered around their Capitol building, their government, armed with Molotovs and torches, and they said very clearly, with their presence, even though they didn't destroy anything, they said, bring abortion, give us our abortion rights back, guarantee us our abortion right, or we will destroy us all. I think Americans aren't willing to do that because it's an inherently irrational position. But that is the only way you assure compliance. People in government have power right now. They have the legal authority to use their power the way that they want to. The only reason they're going to listen to you is if you force them to. If you bring the issue to their doorstep and don't leave until it's solved. And that means taking on the position of a kamikaze, saying, I know that we can't exist without a government. I'm not calling for an anarchist rule permanently. That is not going to work. Anyone who says that anarchy can exist is basically just a libertarian with different design. You can't exist in a world without laws, and you can't exist with a world without enforcement of those laws. I totally agree. But when the government has become corrupt, when the government has decided that it will not bend to the will of its people, it needs to be threatened into submission. Any other way of you getting what you want can be destroyed through legal frameworks. Right now, Trump argues that he has the power to write whatever executive order he wants. So effectively, he can kill your peaceful protest too. You can argue First Amendment rights, but good luck arguing that to the police that are already cracking down on you. I saw this happen with the BLM movement. That is where I lost my faith in peaceful protesting. They were peaceful protesters, and they were shot anyways. In a world where even the press covering peaceful protests are shot, do you think that it matters at this point? Bam, 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 bam. Jump freeze thing. It doesn't matter. Nothing that you'll argue, no argument of avoiding the Insurrection Act or avoiding being a violent criminal. Don't be violent because that makes you just as bad. No, it doesn't matter who's morally in the right. If you want to take that up with your supreme deity you believe in God, in Allah, in the anime girl, whatever, you take that up, fine. If that's what you want to believe in, go ahead. But I believe in dealing with facts and logic and the world around me, not pretending some divine goddess is going to come down and declare me morally correct because they said. Because this is the right thing to do, quote unquote, because this is a moral action. I've right now been entirely legally and morally correct. Well, not morally correct, because I'm calling for violence, but right now everything I'm doing is technically legal. It doesn't change the fact that I'm getting fucked over by this administration. You know, if I'm condemned down to an eternal suffering in hell, we'll just have to see that point. I was raised Catholic, effectively, even before this administration, before I started calling for terrorism, before the shooting of Brian Thompson, when I was pretending to be civil, even before I was regularly posting politics. By the law by the rules that I was told growing up, I'd also be condemned to eternal suffering in hell. I don't believe in that shit. I was raised Catholic, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in following some arbitrary systems of rules just because your pastor or your local government or whatever the hell says that this is the way to be. In a civil society, people should follow the law because if there are peaceful ways of getting things done that are less destructive, choose with what hurts the least number of people. I've always been on that point of risk mitigation. Harm mitigation. Tax the billionaires so that everyone else doesn't have to suffer under a minimalist society that gives nearly nothing. Right? Allow people to have freedom, even if it means that terrorists can talk about terrorist things on your platform. If it means that the rest of us get to have freedom, then that's a risk you must take. There are going to be some criminals. You don't put metal detectors in every building. You don't do a strip search of every civilian so that the one person that might want to bring a gun into your library or your concert doesn't have the opportunity to do so. What we have in America is a population that is willing, and in fact eager, to follow the law, to show a loyalty to the rule of law above all else. And this is the same issue you have with Joe Biden's weak stance. He was effectively given immunity by the Supreme Court. He could have, if he wanted to, if he was willing to fight for people even half as much as FDR did, he could have written an executive order and written, he could have just packed he didn't even need the immunity. He could have just packed the court with liberal justices. And you'll say, oh, well, then the Republicans would do the same thing. But they can. The only reason the Republicans haven't packed the Supreme Court is because they didn't care enough to open the door for Democrats to do the same thing. The problem with Democrats is while they have the objectively better stance on every moral issue, they're not willing to fight unless you've already cut the red tape on something. And in fact, even then, Democrats aren't willing to punch low. They aren't willing to kick below the belt. I mean, you know how many people were calling for the execution of Joe Biden? If Joe Biden wanted to, he could have declared that. He could have said that was treason and sent federal officers after those people. Branded them with felonies and made it so they can't vote. But he won't. He didn't do that. And frankly, it would probably not be the, I don't know. Do you think Democrats would impeach their own president for that? Democrats are the only party that will ever go to impeach their own. And they did it with, what was the name of, Al Gore. Al Gore, who yelled during Trump's speech for Democrats, including some from blue states. I think there was a man, here, let me look that up again. Maybe Massachusetts. Censor Al Gore. (224-1982) against Green. Here, it's Al Green, not Al Gore. I'm stupid. Disciplined for shouting at Trump. Let's see. Which Democrats voted? 10! Ed Case from Hawaii. Oh, Hawaii and New York. California. Washington is understandable. Florida, not. Oh, that's a Democrat. Fuck you. California, Pennsylvania, Ohio's Ohio, but New York, Connecticut. Okay. And look, in 2024 and 2023, MTG, Georgia Republican, interrupted President Joe Biden during his State of the Union address. She did not face formal censor, and I think, pretty sure Lauren Boebert joined in with that because she's an idiot. Lauren Boebert is a yeah. I shouldn't even call her an idiot because she got away with it, so whatever. Lauren Boebert is a lot like Trump in the sense that she doesn't care and she's not afraid to say she doesn't care. She has absolutely no regard for even pretending to be sick, but that's most MAGA Republicans. Now, Lauren Boebert sticks out like a sore thumb because, to me, because she's so blatantly, I mean, come on, like, with the Beetlejuice, jerking off a guy in Beetlejuice is actually fucking crazy. That is just insane. I I can't rationalize that. People that vote for her call themselves Christians. This woman is the third link in a four-link chain of teen pregnancies. And she raised the fourth. She raised her son to go knock up a girl who is, quote, older than 14. To which I wonder, how old is she? Is she 16? Is she above the age of consent? Is she an adult? I mean, Bobert says older than 14, so I'm taking that as she's, you'd write her age down as 14 or 15. Because you are older than 14 if you are 14 years old. 1 second after that passes, you are older by a second than 14. God, how did this become my life? How did I get through everything I've gotten through? Just to be fearing my house to be ripped away by a man who is the embodiment of 4chan incel degeneracy. I shouldn't say that word, I guess. 4chan incel, spiteful, hateful person mentality. He's just the awkward, he's not even a good speaker. Come on, this is the guy who we're letting lead us into fascism. And the same thing with Zuckerberg. When I see Mark Zuckerberg in the photos they put in those news stories about how he says sorry for laying off 10,000 workers, I look at this man and I'm like, listen, I'm weak, I'm not strong, I'm underclassed, but I could fucking beat the shit out of this guy. He's ruling me. This guy has me terrified for my future rights, my future safety. If this motherfucker was on the street, I could pull a knife on him, I could just slice him to pieces, I could destroy him, I could gouge out his eyes. This is the guy that I have to fear? That's the kind of shit that drives me crazy. It's seeing these people, seeing Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg with their smug little smirks, and I just want to choke them out. I want to black out and then wake up above a bloody corpse in handcuffs. I want to wake up with my face pressed against the blood-soaked chest of one of these people. That is probably the best thing that I could do in my life at this point. I think it's pretty clear I'm not going to be accomplishing anything else in the rest of my life. I don't even know how I could, if all of this, if Trump were to get immediately impeached, and Vance too, and Musk too, and he put in place, if Kamala Harris were declared president in 2020, in April 20th of 2025, if on the anniversary of the Columbine shooting, smart people went into Congress and just raised all the Republicans, and everything returned back to normal, how am I supposed to ever look at the people around me the same way again? How am I supposed to look at these members of the I Want to Be the Guy community who did nothing, who didn't even ask for others to do anything, who tried to pretend like this was in any way rational, who buried their heads in the sand? How am I supposed to look at these people and be like, oh hey, nice game that you made. I'm so amazed by your needle-making skill. The people who are also sounding the alarms, those people, I'm not looking at you. If I talk with you regularly and I don't call you an idiot, I'm not talking about you. You're cool. You're either cool enough in my mind that I don't care that you're not yelling political stuff, or you are, and I appreciate you being aware. But to the people who I'm just probably never going to talk to again, I don't know how I exist living around those people, seeing those people. I feel like I'm in the movie Idiocracy. I said this before, and I know Idiocracy as a documentary is a cliche thing to say, but that's what I feel like. After the, there were a handful of times where, because of political things, I stepped away from the internet for a month and just cut off and then came back on. And every time I come back on, I've been more and more frequently in the period afterwards saying to myself, why are these people so stupid? I'm only going to judge the Americans because I only have been forced to contend with the fact that Americans are willing to let this happen. But that's what I just keep coming back to. Oh. Okay. Hold on. I've been forced to contend with thoughts that I did not want to think. And I'm watching other people in the same circumstance not acknowledge these things, refuse to acknowledge these things, refuse to take my explanations because they just don't want to think of these things. It's willful ignorance. But it's willful ignorance that's going to get the rest of us killed. I think there's a point where you realize that the people around you are the type that would have let any bad situation happen. And you just, I can't socialize with these people anymore. And it's a shame because I've always loved fan games. Actually, I've always kind of hated the community, to be honest. This is just the latest. I hated them for different reasons. I hated them because this community's attitude has just generally always been really judgmental, and frankly, but none of that matters. None of that matters, does it? No. It's the bigger picture that gets me to the point where I look at these people and I say, I can't even see you as being acquaintances of me. You'd sit by and let the Republican Party abduct people off the streets. You'd sit by when the secret police are taking people off the streets. This isn't even a hypothetical of like, if you don't vote, then you're enabling fascism. This is outright, you have fascism going right now. And you're telling me about an English essay you have to get done? You're asking me for... You're sending me a picture... You're joking about... You're talking about buying a Nintendo product. You're talking about anime or a new video game, the new Nintendo Direct. And again, if you're not an American, I give you a pass on this point because I don't want to internalize the idea that you would do the same if this was happening in your country. So I'm going to hold the fact and going to drink the copium on the fact that you're living in Germany or in another country, and you don't live in Nazi Germany, you live in modern Germany, where there isn't Nazism to the same degree. I'm just going to hold that so that I can cling desperately to the idea that I'll be able to have anyone that I can interact with and see as a decent human being in the future. But the rest, step up. And here's the thing. I will happily, I don't want to cut everyone else off after this. Please, give me a reason to redeem yourself in my eyes. Give me a reason to say that you're not just going to be complicit. Endorse instead of getting all uncomfortable when people say things like we need to kill Donald Trump, that someone should have shot Elon Musk, that I wish I had shot Elon Musk. Instead of blocking me, please agree, come along, or don't. I'm glad that the people who are willing to stand by and let this happen are at least showing themselves to me. This reminds me of it's just a concept of, I don't know what the word would say. Just please do out yourself to me. You know, if you don't care about what the government's doing, and you're the type of person that just will bury yourself in whatever the next step in your life is to make your life better, because it's all about you. If you're that type of person, if you don't care about collectivism, you don't want to personally suffer for the better of other people, you're unwilling to even take on the potential of personally suffering. Because when this is all done and through, if the progressivists win, then whatever the Republicans, the conservatives, the bigots, the Nazis, neo-Nazis want to do to you, doesn't matter. Once they're gone, once they're reduced to a bunch of old, whiny folk that sit around and complain about and glorify Trump and like wave a flag in public aggressively instead of having control of our actual government. at that point, it doesn't matter. You can be declared the biggest wrong thinker of them all. But what are they going to do to you? Nothing legally. And you'll have... non-bigots will have the legal power then. But if you're willing to just stick your head in the sand, cut another piece of the Thanksgiving turkey, and keep your mouth shut when your uncle, your aunt, your grandfather, whatever, talks about gay people trying to corrupt the education system and turn kids into whatever the hell they're gonna yap about, unisex-free litter box users or whatever the fuck. If you're the type of person that will just focus on how good the mashed potatoes are or the turkey is instead of combating dangerous hate speech rhetoric, then you're just as much the problem as everyone else. And I'm going to say, before someone digs up some old random fan gamer post in the I Want a Community series channel from 2019 where I'm like, fan games shouldn't be political because that is too serious or whatever the fuck. Find whatever post you want. I've changed a lot. I've seen a lot of things. Okay? I was raised Catholic at a time where they weren't talking about transgender people and furries. I mean, at a time where they were talking about sex being bad. And that was it. Because I don't think... And gay people were, like, scorned. And they never even mentioned that idea. Back at a time where politics seemed more like a matter of debate over public policy and less of a 4chan incel, Leafy is here, viewers have gotten control of our government and now determine how everything works scenario. At that point, but like I was raised in a sex negative household, in a sex negative community. I went through Sunday school. I was told that drugs are a unjustifiable evil that will corrupt your life. I try to be the opposite, and I try to be loud about being the opposite, and a little obnoxious about being the opposite, just because I want to make it clear that, one, I'm not... I want to fight against the internal remnants of that sex-negative mentality, and two, I want other people to have the same awakening that I had. Being in the I Want a Community was how I got first exposed to the idea of being transgender. If that were to happen in a church, whatever you call those, if it were to happen at mass, if it were to be a Catholic priest telling me about transgender people that are trying to kidnap girls and rape them, I might have seen transgender people differently and had to been exposed to had to be slowly, steadily de-propagandized. That's why I also try to generally be sympathetic to people who have said wrong things in the past, if they're willing to change now. If you have a person who isn't savvy about queer culture or about the current political happenings, but they're willing to learn, then I will embrace those people, because those are going to be the people that Republicans will seize on. This isn't to say that I think that, in the case of people like J.K. Rowling or whoever, that leftists or progressives did anything wrong. J.K. Rowling had plenty of time to change her view. And she still could. If she were to come out now and say I was wrong, I think the transgender community would at least be receptive to that. Obviously, individual people will do what individual people do. I've always been one that tries to assume the best, and if people are just pranking me and they're just, they're like, haha, I was kidding, I actually still hate queer people, then that's on them. I gave them a chance. And if they come to me again, I'm going to give them another chance, because it's not like they're stealing from me, it's not like they're taking anything. They get to quote-unquote prank me by making me think that they're not a bigot, making me think that they're actually, having bisexual thoughts, when in reality they were just testing and just trolling and trying to see how many times I'll accept them back in. I'm not going to block you, because on the off chance that you're a genuine person that's realizing that they were raised on wrong views, that the religious propaganda that they were exposed to was exactly that, I want to take you and I want to support you. That's the kind of person I am. It's just the people that look at the situation fully aware of what's going on and say, I don't know, I can't really do anything. I gotta focus on my studying for my test. You do realize that if the people in the news lose their right to freedom, you lose your right to freedom, right? You're an American. You're not a Canadian. If you're a Canadian, whatever. You know, we're at the point now where you can't even claim ignorance. You have to be aware of what's going on. You can't not see it. There's people getting ripped out of my communities, like people who get abducted by ICE, and then they say an address that I've been to. I'm like, wait a second, I know that place. That happened where I was. That was outside of the courthouse I went by. I was standing in that spot where the illegal immigrant was, who was seeking asylum, who had an ongoing asylum application, when ICE descended on them and ripped them out. I was where that legal resident was, who had the unsafe driving misdemeanor they were going to court to, when ICE stopped them, abducted them, and took them out before their court hearing. I could have been in that spot when it happened. Do people really, is the peace of mind really worth not fighting against it? Is it really worth it to lose all your rights just so you have the semblance of normalcy, just so you can pretend like you have rights still? Are you really willing to give up the freedoms that you had? Because remember, we are the generation that has the best chance of fighting for these freedoms. We and the people before us, who were born before us. Because Generation Alpha, Generation Beta, who's coming into this world in this chaos, they won't know what it's like to have Barack Obama as president. They won't know what it's like to see a Bernie Sanders speech and think that's going to be the future of our nation. We're finally going to catch up to the rest of the world. They're going to know. What they're going to be used to is the world of open bigotry, of open racism, of open misogyny, of women who get pregnant, scrambling to try to find an abortion in secret without their citizens around them finding out so they don't get arrested. They don't have the Texas police swarming them. They're going to know a world of swattings and of people calling the abortion tip line for a potential $15,000 reward and having the police sent to your house. They're going to know a world in which Donald Trump or whoever the executive is just writes orders, and now people are getting ripped away from your community, where kids go to school and they come back home and find out their uncle or their best friend or their best friend's mom or the people in their community have been taken by ICE and now their home is under siege. And I say this knowing that the militarization of the police started way before. It started before Bill Clinton, even before Ronald Reagan. And this has been steadily growing, exponentially growing, actually. Since then, more and more of our rights are being lost. The Patriot Act, the TSA, we talk about how the TSA is a waste of money, but they're not going anywhere because too many people have just grown up in a world where they are used to the TSA. But to the people who grew up in a world where they weren't used to ICE randomly abducting people, to the citizens who grew up in a world where the president wasn't given complete immunity, where Congress could and was presumed to be willing to bring in a president, even if that president's party had the majority in Congress. To the people who grew up under that belief, where are those people now? What are they doing now? Are they going to go order Uber Eats? I saw this months ago. I saw this ad. It was actually a year ago. I saw this, not an ad. It was a daily talk show thing. I'll go put it on, I guess. Let me try to find it. was about the TikTok ban. Okay, apologies. I actually don't know how to find that video. So... Whoops. I'm gonna have to cut all of that out when I edit this. Boop. I forgot what I was talking about before, but there's a joke in the video where they make something along the lines of... They say... the person is trying to make the point that America is stupid and jokes. I wouldn't be surprised if the next election was decided by Uber Eats. Here's your spaghetti, vote for Trump. And then in a mocking tone, okay, Mr. Spaghetti, I'll go vote for Trump. And that's how I feel like most Americans are. The consumerism and the capitalism has cut so deep that, and the individualism. Obviously, I know that people who are in college or whatever, they want to finish their program. People who have a job, they need to keep showing up and make money. The boss isn't going to be okay with them not showing up, unless they're a progressive-minded person. I mean, if I had a local business, I would just say, okay, folks, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start protesting hard, or we're at least going to put up signs all around our business, and y'all are free to leave for every major protest. And also, I'm going to take our reservoir and I'm going to use it to buy a bunch of assault weapons, and we're going to go rush into the Capitol. No, maybe not that one. I'd probably get reported by someone in that company. More so but like, that's the thing. Local businesses that have storefronts should be focused right now on opposing this fascists. Like, to that one donut shop worker who said to JD Vance that, like, they didn't want to talk to him, they didn't want to do his campaign stuff, and humiliated him. So that one I could probably find. Let me go find that one. Alright, I got anything to talk about. I'm gonna flash them up here with an annoying overlay that I don't know how to get rid of. Fuck you. I just want to see the thumbnail. Okay, we can't do that. Maybe I could open up this image. Oh, it's gonna open up the video. Open image in new tab. Hey, this thing. Okay, these kind of things. These kind of videos. These things that I'm talking about here. Yeah. That thing on the left. They've been up... So, do you know, like, if you know, like, Darmon is the guy's name. They're making videos like that now for Republican members of government. The cult has gone that deep. At this point, they're making those types of... person gets disrespected and then owns their competition. The other person lives to regret it. About the press secretary being asked to remove their cross. About JD Vance getting yelled at by a man at a coffee shop. A woke coffee shop, of course. Because woke, liberal, XD. Stuff like that. The cult has really just gone that deep. I actually don't know how people have just caved like this. I had no idea in 2016, 2020 even, how deep this would go. I really did believe up until I saw the election, but even then I hadn't internalized like how much people actually believe in Trump and the MAGA movement. And how stupid people are. That's what I am still baffled by. And disappointed in. It's that too. And over the last couple months, I've been internalizing that grief and that guilt. Wondering, what could I have done differently? I'd thought many times in the last year and a half about shooting Elon Musk or trying to kill Elon Musk. At the time, he didn't have social service protections, secret service protection, social service, yeah. He's cutting all our social services, that motherfucker. Yeah, he didn't have Secret Service protection. It was arguably the best time anyone could have done that. And so I do yell a lot because I see other civilians, as other people in America, as being willingly ignorant, and that pisses me off. But to be clear, I bear responsibility too, and I know I do. I didn't do enough. At the time, I might have argued, oh, well, I have other things. I don't have all that much money. I'm restricted in my circumstances, but, you know, so is everyone else right now, and they're not doing anything, and it doesn't sound good when I hear it from them. So those excuses aren't enough now. I obviously can't go back. Would I have been able to actually kill Elon Musk? I don't know. I'm sure that would be an awesome post to put in the I Wanna Community Serious channel. Like, oh my god, hey, look, it's Kelvar. Look at that guy. They did something. Look at this. And I could probably make some witty remarks and all that, but it would really be more about killing Elon. It would not be about being the person. If I had faith that someone else would step in and do this, I would happily not be talking about this right now. I would happily just take a break from the internet for 5 months if I thought things were going to get better on the other side of this. Between Social Security threatening to take away my basis for my living and just the we're not going to have another election at the end of this if this continues, if the complacency of citizens continues. If people continue to be complacent in this, complicit, idle, inactive, and for as long as I continue to see people, including in the I Wanna community, sit around and not do anything on this, look, I know that the I Wanna community isn't going to be the front of the revolution. I'm not stupid enough to think that we're going to have in fact, I think that the people that are trying to continue the feeling of normalcy who live in America, who have continued to focus on anything else, any other hobby, any other game, because they want to bury their head in the sand, those people, they are the ones that are assuming that their continued existence is going to be facilitated even under fascism. They're the ones that I think are foolish. I think this is a foolish and selfish position to have. You're not going to change this government by making a fan game called I Wanna Kill Trump. Now, there is an I Wanna Kill Elon Musk game. I'm not going to take stabs at that because that person's from South Korea, and frankly, the South Koreans know how to protest. The South Koreans know how to keep their democracy. We're the Americans doing that. Also, a South Korean absolutely has no obligation to give their life to stop the American elected, American promoted, American billionaire from South Africa. But you know, we made Elon Musk this way. I'm not going to criticize anyone in any other nation for that. There is a collective responsibility that Americans have now, currently, in the modern day, to uphold and to suppress fascism, to uphold our so-called values of democracy. And frankly, that, you know, there should be more protests for Palestine because that is an American-backed violation. It's American-backed genocide. That's what it is. We could talk about Geneva Conventions and humanity and human values or whatever, but the core of it, it's a genocide. Call it what it is. Let's not use arbitrary terms. Let's be specific, because otherwise people will interpret those arbitrary terms in the least offensive way, and they're going to bury their head back in the sand. And then, you know, you have a whole population of people that say, I don't like Trump. And it's like that one image I saw on Blue Sky where it's a bunch of people texting on their phone, someone should do something. Or I think it was that they're thinking someone should do something, probably reading the news on their phone. Give me a chance to prove that I'm not complicit. Give me a mass movement. I don't have the infrastructure right now to personally plan something out, to amass and stockpile weapons, or make bombs. I don't have that ability. But if you got a riot, I'm gonna join in. I'm of the view right now that any chaos right now is good, because it will at least shake those so-called progressives who cling to this idea of making their own normalcy, who are like, this year I'm going to strive to read a bunch of books because fascism is bad. No, we had the time. There was the time for books. To be clear, oppose book bannings. Book bannings are bad. The destruction of books is bad. When we don't want that, but you also don't need to be. You're gonna get nothing done by sitting in your room and reading books about dystopia, unless you can use that as a way to convince someone else. If you want to have a book club where we read The Handmaid's Tale and we liken it, relate that to modern society, do whatever you can to radicalize people against the system. I'm playing 114-514 Gate Jump, not because I care about getting another clear on getting a bigger EP or whatever the hell. I don't care about that. I'm doing that here because it's giving me a reason to stream and to talk to people with the hope that someone might click on and hear something I'm saying and realize that this is not normal. This is not okay. And if you're an American right now, if you're not an American, I'm not talking about you. Well, if you're not an American, heed this as a warning. Don't go let your nation get to this point. And if your nation gets to this point, then listen to what I say because it'll apply to you then. If people are sitting around and letting this happen. Most Americans right now, today is Saturday, April 19th, 2025. Most Americans right now are going to get home, say, it was a real rough week reading the news and doing my work and seeing all the stress and feeling the stress. I'm going to go order some Uber Eats. And then they're going to go order Uber Eats, and that's their act of rebellion, is making themselves feel better. Or they'll go play a game of Lethal Company with their friends. Or they'll play Repo, or whatever the new thing is. Maybe they'll go join some Discord server and talk to people about anime or about video games. There are places, there is a time for all that. I'm not going to say that it's wrong or childish to have things you enjoy. But right now, we need to have the frontmost concern needs to be fighting against this administration, because the alternative is that we don't have rights. And then, you're probably not going to be able to exist. At a certain point, they're going to come for you. First, they came for the socialists, and then they came for the journalists, and then they came for the Jews, and then they came for the elderly and the disabled, At a certain point, you're not going to be able to pretend like your life is normal, because after you hide under the covers, under the sheets, pull them up over your head, while you're watching every other person in your neighborhood deal with this struggle under this, what's going to happen is going to be you next. This government has shown, by the fact that it is willing, this government can exist in a world where we aren't able to go to work. We aren't able to exist peacefully under this authoritarian rule. You see it happen in Russia and you see it happen in China. They will not wait. You are not guaranteed the ability to live a normal life just because you're being a productive member of society. And if you think that they're going to glance over you, that's just as good as might as well go paint a symbol on your doorstep with lamb's blood. Even if you are able to pass as even if you are able to pass as a cisgender person of the gender associated with the biological sex you were assigned at birth or whatever, even if you don't have pride merchandise on you, there's no saying that they aren't going to just dig up some old posts you made 5 years ago and use their NSA tracking services to pin that on you. Or maybe they're coming for someone else. Maybe they think that you're a anti-government revolutionary and you aren't. Well, you kind of don't like the government, but you weren't saying that you wanted to overthrow the government. They just misunderstood you. But guess what? Now you're in the forced labor camp. And before you argue, well, if everyone's in the forced labor camp and they have no one to... No, they're going to use forced labor to do all the things that they need to get done. The solution, a general strike right now is definitely one of the things we need to do. But it doesn't end with a general strike. When everyone... half the reason I want a general strike is that people have more mental capacity to process what's going on right now and maybe do something about it. I get you're tired out from work and you just want to relax, but Americans, your work doesn't matter. Your English essay doesn't matter. Your study group does not matter. Your attendance record at your college does not matter. Whether you get that grade get a good grade on that test or not will not matter if you are living under authoritarian rule. No one cares about your qualifications when you're in the forced labor camp. Now again, I don't want to come across like I'm just virtue signaling here. So I will take you through some of the thoughts that I've gone through in my head, right? Now the state that I live in, I don't really know how to track down one of these federal officials. It's probably impossible at this point. When when the adjuster shot Brian Thompson, that was just a CEO, didn't have any public protection, and chose to not have any bodyguards on him. I'm not expecting to be able to track down J.D. Vance as much as I really, really would love to just go absolutely animalistic berserk on that guy, because that motherfucker deserves it. I don't think I'll be able to corner J.D. Vance and stab him with a pocket knife in the way that I'm dreaming of. But what I do think we could do, what I've had planned, some of the ideas I've floated in my head, in addition to yelling at people to do something, so that they have a voice that's telling them to do something, like I had voices telling me to do something that made me realize that this is not okay, this is not normal, and we need to act now. I've been... If RFK Jr., you never know with this administration, but if he goes and puts in place those farm labor camps, I've been floating the idea, especially if my Social Security gets revoked, of going into one of those camps, putting myself in as, preferably, I mean, as a guard if I can, but probably as an inmate, and leading an uprising. I think that is the best route. If I'm a guard and they give me a gun, then I'm probably just going to go shoot a bunch of other guards. And definitely the higher up people at the camp. Like that'd be great. But I don't think I'm going to be able... I don't know, though. I don't know. If I could try to be cis-passing, if I could try to pass a cis, if I could just be a white person, a white conservative Catholic raised person again. I might dig out my old confirmation document and be like, I'm a Catholic. I believe in Christ and I believe in RFK Jr. and the Trump administration. Please make me a guard. Then maybe I can get. That's probably the best way I'm gonna ever get a gun. I could theoretically get a gun the legal way, even though I'm in a blue state and there is a lot of background checks. Like I have a decently clean record. I don't have any felonies. I don't have any mental psych ward imprisonments. So I could get a gun that way. At this point, I am kind of in the point of just wait and see. But I'm waiting and seeing what happens, not because I think this is okay, but because I want to determine the best way to strike. I'm not going to let myself be another tool for this society. The military-industrial capitalist machine that the United States it is operating because of people that are continuing to go to work. I am not going to work. I've decided long ago, I will not work in this country. I will not work a job for these people. I don't care if it's a Democrat in charge or a Republican. I upheld that under Trump, under Biden, under Kamala, I was going to do the same thing, and under Trump again, Trump 2, Vance, whatever you want to call this administration, the Heritage Foundation, oligarch, I don't know. Whatever the fuck this, I'm still not doing it. And I'm making that differentiation between this Trump term and the last Trump term because there is something profoundly different about who is in charge here. All of the establishment Republicans have been chased away, and so now it really is just the MAGA movement. Not the establishment Republicans were good, but just that this is a different side of... Honestly, Trump's just the means. Trump's just the leader. He's not the leader. He's the figurehead. That's what it really is, isn't it? Donald Trump is really just an extension of J.D. Vance and Kash Patel and Elon Musk and other people who are really in charge. Elon Musk and Doge came in not because Trump told them to, but because Trump allowed them to, because Elon Musk got Trump to let him in. J.D. Vance and the Heritage Foundation in Silicon Valley are using Trump. I don't think anything here is really act of Trump. I've seen Trump get handed legislation to sign, and he sits there with a stoic. In fact, he looks like he looks like an old person that's kind of not on the ball anymore. And then his whatever press secretary or his other secretary, some aide, someone comes in and says, this is a legislation that is going to make it so that mentally ill people can't have guns. And Trump nods, and then he writes his little scribble signature, and that's it. That's how laws get signed. And that was an executive order too. It's not his order, it's him signing the orders of the people who run him. The Heritage Foundation, Kash Patel, Elon Musk, whatever other names you want to put in. I don't think Trump's opposed to any of this legislation. I don't think Trump ever cared. I think Trump, when Trump was running with Mike Pence as his running mate, it was the conservative establishment Republicans that were in charge, that were using Trump as a means to his end. Trump can do whatever he wants, and Trump will sometimes just go off and do something that I don't think the Heritage Foundation or the oligarchs want. We've seen it happen where Trump... the tariff war is probably like our best example. I don't think that any one of the major forces in government, except for Trump, really wants that. Trump wants it because he said that this is the right way to do things. It's the same way as every other egotistical general manager, CEO, head, whatever, who says this is the way we're doing things because it's smart, even though everyone around them is telling them they're wrong. Because they want to be the next Jeff Bezos, they want to be the next person that goes against the establishment, the established rules of business, and finds some way. They want to be the next super intelligent person that everyone looks down upon because they know that they're looked down upon by everyone else, and they want to be the underdog story and not just the miserable, worthless person. It's every MBA graduate on LinkedIn posting nonsense when they're hashtag open to work. That kind of person. I went to go rub my temple and fell on the rest of that spike. I was still a little above it, but I still got the point for it, so screw you, gate jumps. So, at this point I am face-palming. Oh god, I have really become the fanging boomer that I never wanted to be. Let me go put a lamp behind me. We can turn it into an emote. I'll turn on my face cam and just facepalm. Be like, fuck! Yell that loud into the microphone. I am the new... It's Kelvar Gus Rants. The era of Kelvar Gus Rants has arrived. Well, the era's not going to last long. I'm 21k of the way to 114k, so the era's going to end probably in 10 episodes. That's a nice target. 10 rants. Will this turn anyone's point of view? I don't honestly know. Podcasts, I can't even judge anymore. Everything I've said is always wrong. I said podcasts will never, I looked at the Joe Rogan Experience and said that's a podcast for crazy people. Now people are saying that the Joe Rogan Experience endorsing Trump instead of Kamala Harris might have just swung the 2025 election. That or maybe Elon Musk with Twitter. How a site that is where the front page recommendations for a new account includes people like serial human trafficker and alleged child human trafficker, sex trafficker, Andrew Tate. How that fucker manages, he's on the front page of X. Why is anyone taking anything on that site seriously? Every time I see someone post about how they have an X account, I have this vision in my head. I saw this on a Tumblr post and it keeps coming to mind. Someone on a bus reading Mein Kampf who's shaking their head like, oh, I don't agree with this. Oh, I don't agree with this. But turning the page, writing down little notes. Like, oh, I hope you're a anti-neo-Nazi researcher. Because what the fuck are you doing on that site? Except at the same time, I see them like, it's like someone trying to compile together a list of good things in Mein Kampf. That's what I see there. When someone has has a Twitter account still. They're like, I don't want to lose my posts. It's okay if you just ignore all the bots and the racists and the neo-Nazis. I'm not a neo-Nazi. I just hang out around neo-Nazis. Listen, the Nazi bar, it's a good place. The owner's not a Nazi. They're just a libertarian. I know that there's Nazis there, but not everyone here is a Nazi. No, if you have a bar, if there is someone wearing Nazi symbols who is not thrown out of the bar, that is a Nazi bar. If you go to a Nazi bar, you are a Nazi sympathizer. You might not be a Nazi. I'm not going to say you're a neo-Nazi. I'm not going to say you're a Trump voter. But you are a Nazi sympathizer. If you are standing by people like Proud Boys or whoever, the neo-Nazis at your bar, if you're going to a place that is open to housing and serving Nazis, you are in a Nazi bar. You are a Nazi sympathizer. That's just the way it goes. But what about tolerance? So much for the tolerance left, someone says, as I smack them in the face. To which I say, paradox of tolerance. The neo-Nazis, I can coexist with someone who has libertarian beliefs, so long as that person is against Nazis. If you have this fantasy government, this fantasy idea that the government would be better if it didn't have laws, I'm not going to just block you out of my life. If you have this fantasy, this absurd fantasy vision of a world in which other people are being rounded up and imprisoned, maybe killed, we can't exist. I try to be tolerant to anyone who is not directly threatening my tolerance. You're not directly threatening the tolerance of others. That's where the paradox of tolerance is, and I've solved it, and I'll solve it again, and I'll keep saying the same things. I'm sure I've said a lot of this in the first video. I can't even track what I've said before and what I haven't said. I just say the same things on repeat, watching the same things happen over and over again. What else can I do? What else can I do? What we need more people. I need more individuals. I can't do it because what I need is a large movement of individual people, so that if I go out and I destroy a Tesla plant and I get shot, or I go out and I try to assassinate, let's say I assassinate Mark Zuckerberg, and then I'm put in prison, I need to know that the response isn't going to be, yay, Kelvar killed Facebook guy, and then a bunch of shitpost memes are posted about, my little OC shooting Mark Zuckerberg, and then nothing happens. Like with Brian Thompson. For all the people that are lusting over Luigi Mangione, I've seen a handful. There's a handful of people who have actually gone on to do similarly minded ideas. A CEO of some trucking company who wasn't going to pay his employees, well, one of his employees went into the person's office with a knife and stabbed the CEO. Said, "You're not gonna pay us for the work we did? I'm sorry. I have to do this." And that's how I feel. I don't like to be like this. I don't like the idea I don't like what I'm seeing right now. I don't like the idea of facing these questions, of realizing that violence, for a person who has never acted in violence before, violence is the only answer. I hate coming to that realization, but it's coming again and again. I can't avoid it. I've seen it in other countries, and I've seen it in this country. Was anyone going to talk about United Healthcare and, was anyone going to... Look, if Brian Thompson, for the horrible policies that he has with his AI denying 99% of claims, if Brian Thompson could be locked up, I would not support going into a prison cell where Brian Thompson is serving time, or a jail cell where he's going to be convicted. Looks like he's going to be convicted. I would not support going in there and dragging him out like the lynch mobs of the 1800s did with black men and women that were accused of crimes. We're not going to drag someone out of the prison. But if they will not lock up the people who are harming us, who do you call when the police aren't doing anything? You have to call on your fellow citizens. If the rule of law was taking care of these people, even before Trump came in, If the Democrats were stopping corporate greed, there would be no Trump. There would be no Trump. Part of fascism is that people have to be willing to try something new, even that seems irrational, because they just have no hope in the established system. It happened in 2016 too. Hillary Clinton is a horrible candidate for the Democrats to get behind. Horrible person. Especially when you have people who are riled up in favor of Bernie Sanders. You know, they're riled up about the greedy healthcare system. They want to stop these dark money capitalists. Bernie loses, and of course Bernie says, vote Hillary, don't vote in Trump. But as an individual supporter of Bernie Sanders, as a supporter of Bernie Sanders, how do you go from heralding around, cheering an outsider, to voting for Hillary Clinton, wife of Bill Clinton, the 40-whatever-the-fuck president of the United States? What was it? Let's count back. 44, 43, 2. 42nd president of the United States, Bill Clinton. How do you get behind? How do you get behind that? How do you expect, as the Democrats, people will get behind? Oh, she's an outsider because she's the first woman president. No, Margaret Thatcher was a woman. That doesn't change anything. That's just sexist. That's just sexism, actually. The idea that a woman would be less of a threat to, or less of a tool for the establishment because she's a woman. That's sexism, is it not? You've just made sexism, but under the guise of being progressive. Which actually, people being conservative and doing conservative things under the guise of progressive terms, it is exactly what I hate about the modern internet right now. With people talking about, like, wrong think in various progressivist ways. Instead of saying it's wrong think, they'll call it problematic. Instead of saying that, that a trans woman is bad because she's trans, they'll just get behind someone who's saying a trans woman is a pedophile, and that person might be a transphobe. But of course, the people following the movement, you never could call them transphobes, obvious sarcasm here, because they're actually not transphobes, because they would never be transphobic. They have trans friends, and their trans friends, they have trans friends, so they can't be transphobic. And their trans friends would surely stop them from being transphobic in some way. It's not transphobic because it was under the guise of being correct. That's what everyone says. Basically, they were just following the movement. They were just following orders, Your Honor. That kind of shit. That's the kind of thing that gets me livid at the internet. And actually, I've seen that one in the I Wanna community too. Listen, I know the person I'm thinking about here is not by any means perfect. But the number of people who willingly blocked and pushed away this individual, who is, by the way, mentally ill. Let's have some sympathy for a mentally ill. I'm not saying that as a way to be like, oh, haha, look at that person is mentally ill. Look at obnoxious 2014, 15, 16 YouTuber mocking feminists or whatever online. I'm saying that, like, can we give them a break? Are we really going to hold someone who's gone through a whole lot more shit than I have, by the way? So that individual, they have gone through a ton more than any other human being on Earth ever should in the rest of their life, and they're like 20-something. 25. You're gonna blame that person, you're gonna post an old post on Discord from this individual who, again, traumatized individual, and you're gonna reject them from every social space. You're just breeding the next generation of bigot. That's what it really is. Now, thankfully, I don't think they're a bigot. I think they're meant. It's not helping them. They're hurt, and you are continuing to hurt them. And the I Wanna community has a responsibility in that regard. Yes, the I Wanna community. I will call them out on that shit. How they treated this individual, who I'm not going to name, but I think we all know who I'm talking about here. And DM me on Discord if you want to know the name. I guess. I don't know. Should I? I haven't thought about that yet, so I'm not going to do it. Maybe I'll tell you. The people who I've talked to before this point, they know who I'm talking about. The I Wanna community has a responsibility for how they rejected this this person. And I am livid seeing that and seeing how many community members just kind of look the other way on that. Even people who I respected, who pretty much just shrugged their shoulders. And I called out Hasungren in the first video, so I'm going to do this too, because Hasungren did the same thing, except it was just wrong. There wasn't, in this case, an actual Discord message about the person, but Hasungren called a trans woman, fangame person, a pedophile. Outright said they were a pedophile. And it was not true. And no one in the community thought it was true. In this case, there wasn't even any message that you could point to as proof. Like, what I'm saying with this other individual that the I Want a Community pushed away is maybe it's true that they were e-dating a 15-year-old, but in the context of all the other shit going on, are you really going to nitpick one trans woman who's e-dating one 15-year-old? And what does that even mean, e-dating? No one knows what actually went on there. There was just messages, and the person who posted on the I Want a Community in the Serious channel said it's e-dating. And so everyone just went with that, and they sheep following. Maybe I Want a Community mods and admins have some great bit of knowledge that I don't have, because, you know, I'm not in the I Want a Community, so even if they said something, whatever. I wouldn't know. But to that degree, to the degree that I don't think I know significantly less than most people the I Want a Community. And I could go make an alt account and go scroll through the messages of the I Want a Community so I can make a correction in part 3 of this series of me doing gate jumps and talking about how shitty everyone, how much I hate people, and slowly descending more into radical antisocial behavior. Right? I don't think I have... I might have less information than the I Want a Community mods, but I don't think I have less information than the vast majority of people that are willingly joining in the bandwagon against this trans woman, who, for all we know, this might just be a big misunderstanding for her. I mean, again, she was not allowed, she was never asked her opinion, she was never asked for a statement. I asked her for a statement. I gave her a chance to give a statement in my server, which has 20 members and decreasing every month. I did. I don't think the I Want a Community did. That's what I'll point out. It baffles me how somehow a community, any community of people who, like we're not talking about the top, most establishment benefits. I mean, the I Want a Community has always been a community of shut-in gamers, and increasingly, it was my first exposure to furries, my first exposure to trans people, my first exposure to genderqueer people was from the I Want a Community. How a community like that, how I am seeing all these parallels with the conservative, capitalist environment of America, and this community of a bunch of shut-in, mostly queer gamers that play 2D precision platformers that are illegal under copyright law. I don't understand. I really don't understand how I'm seeing those kind of parallels. How I keep, like, you people, everyone in the I Want a Community should be where I am right now. Because you all have a direct benefit from getting rid of this administration and putting in place a socialist administration. You want to make fan games? You'll be able to do that without having to worry about what kind of money, without worrying about working a job for money, if you had a universal basic income. You should all be taking to the streets and fighting against fascism and then fighting for progressivism. And you want to accuse me of just being all talk and no action? Give me a place. Right now, I'm not going to go protest for socialism, because right now we need to stop fascism. That's priority number 1. Give me a way. Give me a riot. Give me a plot. At first, before I went and just started rage posting in politics on Blue Sky, I posted my email address, my Proton Mail email address, and I said, email me. Contact me. You want me to fly out to you? I'll fucking do it. And I called for fanging people because I trust them not to be feds. obviously you don't want to fall into the trap of a Fed. Maybe you think I'm a Fed. I'm not a Fed. No Fed agent would tell you to embrace riots right now. Fed agents, you know what they'd want to do? They want people infighting, like everyone has been. Federal agents would want liberals calling ICE to report their MAGA voting Latino neighbors. That's what ICE agents would want. Fed agents would want. Federal agents would be starting up conversations like debating the validity of bisexual lesbians, or questioning whether Maya Arsen Cremio is a real hacktivist, or whatever the hell people are rambling about. She calls herself a biromantic lesbian. Blockade her, kick her out. She says these people are valid. Get her out of here. Okay, listen, Maya Arsen Cremio. It is a wonderful, wonderful spokesperson for literally, I mean, half of my views right now come from having followed Maya Arsen Cremio and a bunch of related accounts on Tumblr when I left Twitter. And that's where I really got exposed to at least to the sex positive aspect of my current views, and realizing how much I had still kind of carried as baggage from my Catholic upbringing. As for like the sex negative stuff. Because I was, for a long period of time, someone who, even though I would have considered myself a queer ally and queer myself, I would have like kind of pearl-clutched a little on some of the more upfront sexual aspects. I think my greatest accomplishment in 2024 was turning my Tumblr page, or at least on was it 2024? Was it 2023? I don't know what year. I can't track the years anymore. Whatever year it was when I first got on Tumblr, was going from my Tumblr page being a bunch of indie games things to liking a bunch of artists like what's his name? I forget how to exactly. It's Wolf something. Their OC is Salem on Tumblr, and they draw a bunch of fat and very sexually sexually open furry art. We're talking like skimpy outfits, and having changed it where Tumblr goes from recommending me just indie games to actually recommending me queer fat furry art, I feel like that's a sign I was following the right people. and that was all just through following my Arsen Cremio. The exposure to all of this, my new anarchist beliefs, really did come from Holy Fucking Bingle being a meme. I know Maya, the kitten, Maya is probably a little tired of people saying Holy Fucking Bingle all the time and joking out Bingle. Because, of course, it is it is a kitten of many talents, not a one-trick pony. There's more to that, more to it than just Holy Fucking Bingle. Look at the Sprigatito. Look at the Sprigatito plush. And maybe I'll go buy a Sprigatito secondhand in tribute, because as much as there's a lot more, much more to Maya than Bingle. In fact, Bingle is not the reason that I like Maya. Bingle is just how I first got access to, how I first got into that and absorbed in that little sphere. Holy fucking Bingle. But it was everything else. It was seeing Maya's posts about cyber security and privacy and the cyber stalking that's going on. All these new AI tools that are, and workplaces that are putting in place ways to stalk people. Just seeing how much we've given up in the aftermath of the Patriot Act, in the aftermath of 9/11. But again, it's not 9/11 that did this. We're not where we are because of 9/11. We're here because of George W. Bush and because of the Democrats that folded to him. Because this country where you can wave your hands in the air and go 9/11, 9/11, and have the entire mob, crowded around you. It's the same sort of mentality that allowed a white woman in the 1880s or then early 1900s to say rapist, Ensler, and start a lynch mob. They're going to do the same thing, only it's against privacy now instead of against civil rights, which itself is a civil right. The right to privacy, because it's targeted against terrorists, but it never will. They'll never just target terrorists, because it's all of us that when we go to the airport, we have to go through TSA procedure. We have to make sure we're not on the no-fly list. Holy fucking bingo, we found the no-fly list. We have to not be on the no-fly list, a list which remained entirely private until Maya Arson Cremu leaked it, a list which the leaking of was declared, had Congress all riled up. Why are you so mad about having people having just citizens able to see the list? We can't edit the list. We can't do anything about the list. There's no way to appeal being on the list. But this list of names, which has been held private for, I guess, what year was it when that was put in place? 2002? No-fly list. Let's look it up. We have access to information. Use it. Okay, holy fuck! We have to read this point together. Abe Mashal, a 31-year-old Muslim and United States Marine veteran, found himself on the no-fly list in April 2010 while attempting to board a plane out of Midway Airport. He was interrogated by the TSA, FBI, and Chicago police at the airport and was told they had no clue why he was on the no-fly list. Once he arrived at home that day, 2 other FBI agents came to his home and used a do-not-fly question and answer sheet to question him. They informed him that they had no idea why he was on the no-fly list. In June 2010, those same 2 FBI agents summoned Marshall to a local hotel and invited him into a private room. I would not want to take that invitation. You're going to end up fucking cut into pieces with a bone saw. They then told him he was in no trouble, and the reason he ended on the no-fly list was because of possibly sending emails to an American imam they may have been questioning. I don't know what that means. They then informed him that if he would go undercover at various local mosques, they could get him off the no-fly list immediately, and he would be compensated for such actions. What the fuck? Marshall refused to answer any additional questions without a lawyer present and was told to leave the hotel. Marshall then contacted the ACLU. I would have contacted someone, a lawyer, and been like, how do I? Oh my god, that is absurd. And is now being represented in a class action lawsuit filed against the TSA, FBI, and DHS concerning the legality of the no-fly list and how people end up on it. Marshall feels if he was blackmailed, I feel that too, into becoming an informant by being placed on the do-not-fly list. Oh my fucking god. No Spy, No Fly. Buy that book. Buy this book, No Spy, No Fly, and give him some support for what the fuck happened there. What the hell? I mean, I know I'm bombing, I'm throwing out cuss words left and right here. At this point, what else can you say? What the fuck am I supposed to say other than holy fuck? Hello? Hello? That is insane. Did I move the... I did move the display capture. Good. I can't do anything else. I accept it. Say what the fuck. I'm hoping that seeing me lose my mind will do to someone what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz calling the Republicans weird did. Oh, what did it do? What did it do? It didn't win the election. It did get the Republicans riled up, though. Maybe I can end my life by getting shot by a police officer in a random raid at the quote-unquote wrong house. They'll be like, oh, we didn't have a warrant for this person. Oopsies. My bad. You're supposed to go somewhere else and stop a robbery suspect. Well, they didn't obey orders, so their life doesn't matter. Bye. I mean, their life matters, but our life matters more. If I were to become the Unabomber, what would even be like what would they even say? If I were to become like a Unabomber type person, I can't be bombed at 9 point. No point even suggesting that. It is gonna be crazy if somehow the world corrects itself and like 2 years from now I'm back in the Awana community. I don't know, it's gonna be weird. I can't imagine myself ever interacting with these people, but I guess after 2 years of not fascism, I might change my mind. Or something. I don't know. truly, I probably only ever say I want a community to, like, get bug reports. I'm just gonna go hermit off. Go become a hermit and just make games. Be your, like, your depressed, mysterious Japanese artists that make, like, Unigi and no one knows where they are, where the person, if the person's even alive still. Two, 7, 2, 9. You know, the worst outcome of this, the reason I'm doing this is because, like, the worst possible scenario, right, is I quote-unquote waste 20 hours of my life, get a Fang and Clear, which is weird, but I mean, yeah, 114514 Gate, sure. 114514 Needles is what it's actually called. So the worst outcome of this is, what, I waste a couple hours. I wasn't gonna do anything with those anyways. Not exactly in the mood to be making games again. Not when I think I might be abducted at any point, or I'm really more thinking like my social security is going to be taken away and then I'm going to be homeless. And then I'm just dead, so it doesn't matter how much of the game I have done. If it's not 100%, if it's not released, then it's just gone. And if it is released, I still die. A pretty horrible death, too. You know, I'd kind of rather struggle scraping at the walls of my prison cell than start doing arts and crafts. Even if I could send the arts and crafts out and have that saved. I'll write a little book and put it through the iron bars right before they haul me off to cut me open and have me bleed out slowly while they chant, Trump, 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 our savior. If there is a future for me in this community, at least I have this time period to serve as like a filter. I'm getting to see a lot of people for who they really are and not who I want them to be. And a lot of those people I don't like. So at least I know that now. At least I'll know to not interact with them in the future. You know, I'm glad at least that some people say they'd rather be ignorant as opposed to just keeping my mouth shut when I talk about politics and then asking me for game dev help. That's what I appreciate. At least I know now who is actually just using me for game dev and who is actually someone who I want to support. And so I'll just won't answer questions from the people that want to be ignorant, and I will answer questions from the people that are at least willing to talk about these things and think about them. And if you happen to get false flagged there, whatever, go find someone else to answer your game dev questions. I have no obligation to help you. Go wait for one of the other employed and college-focused person, people that do this as a hobby, and wait for them to answer you with after 3 hours, with a quick response telling you to look something up because they can't be asked to do your work for you. Go ahead and do that. If that's what you want, do that. I'm glad they're honest. I don't want to. I have my time, and I'm not going to use that to support people who I don't agree with. We can coexist. I'm not going to help you. I think 28K is a good mark for today. That should keep on track to finish in 10 rambling episodes. I put the first one on YouTube right now. It's probably finished being checked, so it should be public now. I put a thumbnail on it and everything. The thumbnail is of a bunch of protesters getting pepper sprayed, which is exactly the state we're in. I figured the imagery would help people realize that this is not actually just about doing gate jumps. And so maybe they look at it and look at the world around them like they shouldn't just be playing a bunch of needle and wasting their life with that. This is only to non-Americans, to Americans. To non-Americans, you're in the pool. You don't have a government to rise up against. Russia and China are too far in control. I don't know how you'd ever save people from that. It's gonna probably have to be something external. And in America, we're at the tipping point. This is the point where you either fight back and you save our country, or Trump comes in, takes control, and that's it. I mean, at a certain point, you can't really start a rebellion because you just don't have the ability to organize privately to even start talking about that stuff. The only way that, established dictatorships, where they have all these tools to spy us, the only way that those get overthrown is if, when people gather together and one person says, we need to overthrow the government, the response from everyone else is an immediate yes and not like a why. Let's talk about it. Because you don't have time to talk about it at that point. The moment you suggest dissent, you're against the law. And then you're in the fight at that point. You've identified yourself as a person of interest. And look, this video, if the CIA is able to crack my one layer of VPN separating me from this account, which I honestly might even have had a burner phone I bought used, so you could definitely track me from this YouTube account, then I guess I'm against the law. I'm also marked in that way. Take my comments and use them to start a terrorist case against me. I don't know. Maybe my computer's been tapped this whole time. Maybe there's a federal bug in every room. Who knows? Maybe every word I'm saying is being used, is being tracked, and they're just building up a network of all the people I talk to. I don't want to say that's gonna make people not want to talk to me out of fear. I feel like some people would actually be dumb enough to bow to the supposed hypothetical situation because they'd be like, oh yeah, wait a second, that could happen. I better stop talking to Kelvar. I better stay away. This is the reason that I would always argue when people were talking about Jan 6th. I would always try to say, I'd always make sure to add in a comment of, I'm proud they did something. Yeah, they did it for the wrong reasons, but they had a powerful movement. They had the right idea to, I would always say I admire the fact that they stormed the Capitol. I don't agree with why, but I admire the fact they did something. And I'd say something about, comparing that to all these peaceful protests. And you could say about Luigi Mangione too. Just, he had the right reasons, but one man with one gun, I'm sorry, not Luigi, but the adjuster, because Luigi's free Luigi. One man with a gun did more to shake the billionaire class than decades of protesting. And that's under Democrats and Republicans. Because I'm going to hammer that point in, because if the end result of the Trump administration is that we go back to where we were in 2012 or 2008, there's going to be another. And it's probably going to be within my lifetime. If society does not fundamentally change, if the Democrats are not willing to start poking at the billionaires that are funding them, and start saying, no, you have to give your share. You have to give. You have to pay taxes. Jesus Christ. Pay taxes, have decent working standards. I'm out here like, you have to give your share, as if it's like a command from a civilian rebellion. No, here's what the civilians want. People like me. We're going to burn your mansion down and take all your money. we're gonna take your mansion. We're gonna convert it into sustainable housing, livable housing for people, many people, not just one, not one family. No, like this is gonna be. We're gonna turn it into an apartment system, basically. And we're going to give you. You get one room. You get like the base level room. You know, put them in jail. Put these billionaires in jail. Just throw them in there. The thing is, the outcome of good democratic leadership would have been they get taxed, they have to downsize their homes, and they don't have nearly as much money as they do. Instead of having $100 million, the most anyone has is like $90 million, which is still a fuck ton of money. Definitely nothing in the billions. That's good democratic leadership. What's going to happen instead, if we don't fall to fascism, what's going to happen instead should be a civilian uprising. And at that point, you don't get to argue, well, it wasn't a crime when I committed it, so whatever, habeas corpus, due process. No. It's going to be people surround your mansion. When the fascists are gone, we're going to break in, we're going to take you, and we're going to, I don't know, crucify you, hang you. Do we crucify them, or does that just build them a martyr? I think we just take the billionaires and just shoot them one by one. Or maybe stab them, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Just announce open season on billionaires. That's what I'd do if I was president. Anyone who has over $100 million no longer has protection under the law. Crimes against them are all legal. Crimes against their property are all legal. This is an absurd thing to do and will cause immediate chaos. But at this point, look at the world we're living in. It's chaos too. If we could overthrow the fascists, I'd have no issue if the... I think the government needs to at least look the other way on... No, it needs to prosecute anyone who supported Trump. Just do Nuremberg trials. Say, you know what? Fascists took over our government. We are suspending the rule of law by popular demand. And yeah, I'm talking dangerous things here, but I'm in a dangerous mood. That's why I'm live streaming this instead of recording it, so I can edit out random little things I throw in that might not be the most advertiser friendly. That's why I've backed up my entire YouTube channel, and I'm waiting for it to get deleted. I'm waiting for my Twitch account to be banned. Go ahead, do it. Amazon, do it. And I'm saying Amazon because it is Amazon. This is a site run by Amazon, headed by Jeff Bezos. It's no more free than the Washington Post is the Washington Post is to publish what they want to publish. They wanted to endorse Kamala Harris, and Jeff Bezos said don't. And now Jeff Bezos is replacing the op-eds with a bunch of points on free markets and free civility, or whatever the civilization, whatever the fuck. The beauty of free markets and liberty. It's a bunch of libertarian bullshit, which is probably going to be fascism-sided, because Jeff Bezos runs the paper and he gets to say what happens. This isn't a local paper run by a local group of writers, and this is not a co-op. This is a corporation. And as Jeff Bezos admitted in his own writing, he does not think that his paper has the obligation of even representing every viewpoint fairly. Basically, the Washington Post at this point is just his personal plaything. It's his Twitter. It's his own account he can publish to the masses. There's really something quite ironic of, after years of saying that trust news sources, trust verifiable sources, being like, well, now the Washington Post and the New York Times aren't trustworthy sources. The Atlantic isn't really a trustworthy source. AP isn't trustworthy. Who do we trust at this point? You trust individual researchers and a few free papers. Yeah, that's pretty much it. MSNBC is probably saying the right stuff. Probably saying real things. CNN, I mean, look at the coverage around Luigi Mangione. Look at the coverage around the shooting of Brian Thompson. Wasn't it the Atlantic that put out the Atlantic? I think it was that Brian Thompson was the real working class hero. Because he was a farmer and then he became a CEO. Oh, the Atlantic. Aw, the Atlantic wrote. Or the New York Times. New York Times. Brett Stevens. A working class hero. It's also in myheraldreview.com website. Brian Thompson, not Luigi Mignone, is a real working class hero. By the way, Luigi Mignone is not guilty. He has not been found guilty. If Luigi Mignone is acquitted by his jury, he should just sue every single documentary maker, Mayor Adams, who's sharing information with these random media companies. It's disgusting. The Atlantic wrote an article here. I'm gonna pull that up. An astonishing level of dehumanization. Kelvar, you're dehumanizing this man. You're laughing at his family that has to deal with his death. I am. I'm not gonna apologize. Peter Wenner, I'm not gonna apologize to you. Two Saturdays ago may have been the first time the person drawing shrieks of delight had been arrested for cold-blooded assassination. Premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attacks. Yeah, exactly. So, like, unlike the Columbine shooters, who just massacred a bunch of innocent random civilians because they were angry. Oh, and I can't read anymore. Am I gonna essential journalism for historic times? Shut the fuck up. I don't want to read your shit. If literally anyone cared about me, they'd go, I don't know. They'd be laughing when I say shut the fuck up. I was such a timid person before. I was such like a gentle, kind. I just helped people with game dev and made some games. That was literally all I did. And then they came, and then they started coming for people and dragging them off the streets. And I'm like, wait a second. This is not right. And I looked at the people around me and saw them kind of just twiddling their thumbs, and that's kind of the moment I realized, oh, that's the world we live in. I feel like this is probably bad, but I do have this growing thought in the back of my mind that you people just aren't worth it. Would I really want to sacrifice my life for these people? I joined a movement that I believed in, but right now, I don't know. I'm seeing half the people surrounding Luigi Mignone are just talking about how hot he is. Okay, yeah, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but sure, he is attractive. I get that. Can we talk about what he did? Or not he, but the adjuster, or whatever. Are y'all going to show up to protest outside the courthouse? I'm going to be there the next time. Whatever day that is. And that next trial happens. Isn't it supposed to be in June? I'm going to be there. You'll find me there. I'm probably not going to identify myself as Kelvar, given that I've been spewing this stuff, and I think the police would... I won't say. I don't think the police will care, but I don't want to expose myself to that risk. I mean... Who knows where the government's going to go as far as, like, thought crimes and anti-American sentiment and punishing that. What I will say, though, I will be there in New York, outside or Pennsylvania, or whatever the courthouse is going to be. I will be there. I will join the protesters, wherever that is. I will take a train ride, I will take a taxi, an Uber. I will show up there. I will fight for Luigi. I will yell for Luigi. And I'm not going to be yelling stupid things about him being hot. I'm going to be saying all of this shit. I'm just going to yell it in public. We can't judge. You know what I'm just going to hold up a giant print of the Trump tweet. He who saves his country violates no law. That's what I'll yell that at the cameras, and I'll hold that up. When you see someone doing that, maybe that's me, maybe it's not, I don't know. I'm not gonna say for certain. Wink wink, nudge nudge. I am a little uncomfortable with the thought of associating my real life body with my online persona, but you know what? This is the time to be uncomfortable. What did I change my Discord status to? This is the time to be uncomfortable and unruly. History will thank us. History will vindicate us, and the world will thank us, or something like that. Yeah, something like that. check my Discord. It's on there. 24215. Just watch a number go up. I think this game will drive someone mad if they play it for long enough. Maybe that's gonna help me. I've already had the part where I drive myself, where I dehumanize or I lose my empathy by watching people get brutally attacked and murdered and shot by police. And now I'm having the part where I lose all sense of reason by slowly watching the number count up. 24263. 24267. 24271. 24274. 24. I'm not even trying on these gates, I'm just tapping buttons in a pattern. I'm not even looking at the gate, actually, I'm actually looking at the number. And my still empty chat, which doesn't want to say anything because no one wants to deal with this, they just want to come here to play the 2D precision platformer games. They want to go to college, get a job, go on the internet, search up porn, masturbate. They don't want to talk about politics. Not unless it gets them PR. Not unless it gets them people saying, "You're right. Popular. Like this post." Are these human beings that are raised on social media? Like, what has social media done to rot our brains? We could let this happen. Joe Rogan experience is fucking crazy. That actually swung the election if that did. People still using X because they value their posts more than they value more than they care about supporting a Nazi. They're directly funding a Nazi when they say on X and they view ads and they make posts on there, keeping their account undeleted, directly supporting Nazis. Do they care? No. Well, maybe they care. They do care. That's why they tweet that Elon Musk is a loser. Elon Musk is a loser and lame. I don't like that guy. But then they continue to support Elon Musk's platform. And the same thing with Facebook and Instagram. If you don't like Facebook, don't go on Facebook. I'm not usually one to argue, don't vote, or don't vote with your wallet. Actually, I am one. I'm not one to stop at don't vote at vote with your wallet. I think people should vote with their wallet. That's why I never went to college. That's one of many reasons why I never even attempted to go to community college. Okay, being expelled is probably part of it too, but I also wasn't planning on going to college even before I was expelled. That's why I was okay being expelled there in high school. In my senior year. That's why I tweeted about it and I said, "High school queer," with a bunch of partying faces. You still have that up in my account's gone, obviously, because it's Twitter, but the embed is still up on my Discord. So if you wanna see that post, it's like high school clear, and then a bunch of partying emojis. I can't post that on the platform. I can't tweet that. Why would I put that in the why would I put that in the Twitch chat? I will get up to 28k. I'm tired, and I think you can tell it, and I'm probably starting to slur my words and just not know what to say, but I'm gonna get to 28k. Why? Number go up. I'm just as filthy as the rest of y'all. You filthy animal. Two, 4, 6, 4, 5. 24665. What they said about if you give people bread in circuses, they'll never revolt, I'm afraid that it actually is true. In the end of the day, as long as people have access to Uber Eats and they can gorge on that, on fast food, fatty fast food, they can watch porn, they can buy figurines and video games and sit their whole life away looking at that. Wow, a new video game came out, plays it for like 20 minutes and forgets about everything else. I mean, people came out en masse for the 5051 protests, but those were not riots, those were peaceful movements by people who knew they would return to their safety of their home, where they could bury themselves in food and sex and video games and consumerism. Isn't that the reason that libertarianism, or liberalism, just descends to fascism? Because in the end, by the time that those things get taken away from you, under liberalism you have the illusion of freedom, and in a way that doesn't affect the government or any of the people in power. So that power just grows. But people don't see it. People just see the video games until they get tariffs on their Switch products, but up until that point, people had video games and they had the ability to call in food. I mean, you can live like a, not like a king, but you can pretend you're like nobility. You can pretend to order food over to your house. I mean, I think that's all fine, but you need to also be aware of what's going on. People won't feel those rights getting ripped away, though, until it's too late. And even now, there are people now who are refusing to acknowledge the fact that this is not a normal time, and you can't act like it's a normal time. You're trying to act like this is normal because they just want to cling to whatever semblance of normalcy they can have, and they don't see the bigger picture. They don't care, or they can't care enough to overcome the desire to bury their head in the sand. But again, look at me. I'm tapping away, playing a video game technically on a keyboard, trying to educate people, but there's no one here. Maybe if I was playing Mario Kart instead of do the 114-514 needles, maybe that would help, because there's so many people to look at while they hear me. And who am I to be saying that other people are lazy or complicit? I voted for Kamala Harris, but was I out here pushing for... Was I going to be protesting if Kamala Harris was elected president? Probably not. I'd probably be making a fan game right now. Maybe I'd be making a fan game about socialism, but I certainly wouldn't be terrorizing Tesla plants. And then what? Would there be another fascist elected in 4 years instead of in 2024? It'd be 2028. Maybe not. Maybe they would be. Maybe there wouldn't be. Just watching the number go up. is there to say? What is there to even say? As of right now, it's just we need people to stand up. We need people to revolt. That means you personally have to get off of the individualist, capitalist mentality and start doing something. Organize. Start creating local groups. Create violent demonstrations. Yes, violent ones. And stop talking about the Insurrection Act like that's going to change anything. Trump could already bring the military in. He just has to command to do it, and the Supreme Court ruled that he has immunity. He's already commander-in-chief of the military. He can just send the soldiers in to fight Antifa, or whatever the fuck he wants to make up, or MS-13. It's not like they can't already grab you off the streets. And yes, I'm saying you. Because even if you're not an immigrant, even a legal one that has permanent status here, even if you're a citizen and you were natively born here, he can take away your citizenship. He can actually just say you're not a citizen, and then you're gonna get hauled away. And that English essay, that job promotion, that event with family that you had planned up, that none of that matters anymore. Your friend group, that doesn't matter anymore. Because you know what? You're not in America. You're in El Salvador. You're in the Centro de Terrorismo, or whatever the fuck. You're in CSOT. CECOT. And you're going to get forced into labor or executed. ICE already probably ICE could easily staff those forced labor camps that RFK Jr. wants to make. And hell, if you're detained by ICE, you're a prisoner, which means legally you're not protected under the 13th Amendment anymore. Wake up, America. I hate to be an edgelord and be like, wake up, sheeple. But really, wake up, sheeple. Maybe I was wrong for ever judging people like that. Maybe everyone was right when they said, fuck the establishment. Maybe we should all just be... I mean... What, sitting down for the Pledge of Allegiance? That's already fascist propaganda. Like, I would have done that before Trump got re-elected, but to be honest, I would have looked down upon people that did that when I was younger, because authoritarianism ingrained in my mind made me a cuck, establishment cuck. That's what I was. I'm gonna admit it, I was an establishment cuck. Right now I am here breaking all the rules because I apologize for the time that I would have looked down on others for breaking any rules. I was an establishment cuck and a sheep. That's what I was. I was fooled, I was tricked, I was deceived, but I fell for it. I fell for it. I'm trying not to fall for it now. I'm trying to stand up now. But that does kind of require other people in America to stand up. That means they need to think too. Wait, I'm past the 2/10 mark. That'd be 22k. Not 28k. How did I get... I guess I was multiplying the bottom 5 digits by 2. Imagine math, XD. I guess I was just objectively being wrong. I played for like 2.5 hours last time, didn't I? 2.5 hours here. Can I stop? I'm tired. I've been doing this too much. Too much jumping back and forth is driving me crazy. Well, it's not that it's driving me crazy, but I'm bored of it now. And no one else is here, so as far as I see, no reason not to. Let's go to 26k. I'll think of something to say at the end. The end thing I have to say here. Wake up to the fact that we are in a war. We are under the rule of terrorists. This is a hostile takeover of our country, which means you need to fight back as much as possible. Not as much as the law allows, but as much as physically possible. If you can get out there and burn down the Republican headquarters, do that. I think this is now legally a threat. I think this is legally a criminal threat, if I say this. So I'm going to say it. On April 20th, 2025, go out and burn down the Republican headquarters. That is my legal threat. Republican headquarters in New York. Burn it down. The place that was vandalized with swastikas, burn it down now. Because the alternative is, you keep using legal avenues, the government bans them, and then you have to protest less and less, shy away slowly as the government cracks down against you, and then there's no protest left. Or when it gets down to when the government starts controlling, passes some line in your personal life, maybe it's blocking you from accessing the internet, maybe it's taking away the ability for you to get, I don't know, making gay sex illegal. Maybe that's the point for you. Maybe it's putting in place monitoring devices in your own home. Maybe the limit for you that you're comfortable with is being forced into a marriage against your consent. But if that's the kind of government we live in, the time that you get to the point where you're like, wait, I'm actually not okay with this, I'm gonna fight back now, it's too late. Well, you can fight back, but how many people are left to fight back with you? So we have to fight back on the first front. Whether we win or not in this skirmish, whether we're able to kick Trump out of there, it depends on when that first front is, when we fight the first battle. Not the first protest. The government knows we're not happy. When a government puts in place a law like banning abortion, they know that people are going to be angry. They don't care. It's a way of controlling people. If the government wanted to make you happy right now under Trump, they would raise your minimum wage. They would give you social benefits. They wouldn't try to take away your social security. If they were concerned about making people happy, they would just pass the progressive populist things, even though they're Republicans, because they can do that. There's nothing stopping them. But they won't. They won't do that. Because they don't care about you. And they don't care about your displays of dissatisfaction. A general strike might get them... A general strike will shake the boat. Will rock the boat. Then the government is probably going to strike back at you, and you need to be okay with that. That's not a failure of the general strike. That's a part of the general strike. Then you need to strike back at it. And that means physically. With violence. With pitchforks and torches. Or guns and knives. And grenades. Explosives. I mean, look at the Ireland independence fight. Because the United States government, in all of those attacks, even if you miss the elected officials, even if you try to shoot an ICE agent and you hit them in a non-lethal way and they get medical treatment, they need to be lucky every time. The collective movement only needs to be lucky once.